Aloha all. I wanted to drop in and talk today about a really common thing that I think happens as we move and journey through our own path of spiritual awakening, especially as we begin to see everything that is happening kind of in this matrix that we have all been brought up in and have been so heavily conditioned. And as we begin to see through that conditioning and see how corrupted actually all of the systems of this matrix are, there's this desire to kind of one, shout it from the rooftops, to like do these deep dives into the rabbit hole, discovering more and more and more about how indoctrinated that we've been, as we begin to see all of the systems that really have been set up to control. And I personally, in my experience, feel like it's kind of a necessary part of the process, just to really become aware of everything that has gone on, that has really entangled us in this forgetting. And it can be a rude awakening. And it really truly is like this complete collapse of the world view that we've had. It's as if everything that we have been taught is completely distorted. And most of it is, which is why that traveling inside as we awaken to the truth of who and what we are, and allowing our intuition to guide us, and maybe just not getting lost in the darkness again, and having the sense of needing to go and battle it and needing to have a conversation about it with every single person you meet. This idea that you want to wake everybody up. And it's great to have these discussions, but there's always an invitation to notice how you're feeling, to notice what that does to your vibration. And what it does to the vibration of another when you're discussing it. It can really instill a lot of fear, anger, frustration, this desire to fight. And when the recognition is happening, I think those are appropriate and normal emotions to work through. That to me is one of the keys of refining, as you continue to move forward in the process, but not get stuck there and not spend days upon days, weeks, months, years just going into all of the conspiracy. I feel like a lot of people really get locked into that space and they don't move beyond it. And what I want to talk about, what I really want to express and give kind of a higher perspective on, is becoming increasingly aware of what the vibratory state that you're existing in does to your ability to kind of level up, to begin to see it, be aware of it, but don't get stuck in that lower vibratory state. So the way I see it is, when you look at people who quote unquote are asleep, or they don't recognize yet, they're still in that forgetting phase. They haven't recognized how our education, our government, our monetary system, our media, our food, how all of it has been really kind of built and constructed to kind of keep us sick and tired and enslaved. And it's wonderful when you wake up and you start to recognize that. But it's almost as if those that are there, their soul is actually exactly where it needs to be. But it's almost like they are still being held like the strings of the puppet. They're still being maneuvered and manipulated. And I personally believe that each person's soul awakens in divine timing. That is actually within our DNA, that when is the perfect timing for each person, it gets switched on and they begin to wake up and they begin to see a much vaster perspective of reality. And until they do, you could put every piece of evidence in front of their face, and in order to preserve the world as they know it, they're going to be in cognitive dissonance. So there's no point in expending copious amounts of energy trying to convince someone of what they should see, and copious amounts of energy defending that which you are now standing for. It is increasingly exhausting to your energy to be in that mode. It's a mode of fighting. It's a mode of kind of headbutting up against that which is happening out there. It's still really siphoning your energy to the outside and wanting to shift, wanting to blame, and wanting to kind of point the finger at everything that's happening outside of you. There's still energies, frequencies within that of victimization. And I speak this because I see a lot of people kind of stifle their own growth because they get stuck in that fight. And so I want to bring just another awareness to it, because you're seeing them as puppets being controlled on the strings of all of these, constructs of our society that you're now seeing through. However, when you're trying to defend and convince them, you're actually meeting them at the exact same vibration. The vibration of that convincing and that fighting keeps you there, and it keeps you just as much a victim of the puppeteer as the people that you see, that you look at as still asleep. It puts you right in the same vibration. And that's not where you want to stay. There's a moment when you'll recognize that. And maybe it's when you're watching this right now. You'll recognize that it's an exhausting place to be. It's a frustrating and irritating place when your internal dialogue is like, why won't they wake up? It's not their time. It's not their time. Think back to when you were that cog in the wheel. You believed it fully. Somebody wasn't going to convince you that your entire experience of reality was false. You weren't ready for that yet. It's not your job. And it's not serving you. And it's not serving your evolution and your ascension to stay in that place. When you begin to go inward and see from the higher perspective and undo all the distortions within yourself, anything that you still believe that is in some way enslaving you to out there, then you're still at the mercy of that energy. It's the same energy. It's like war. It's like one country goes to war with another country, and so the other country fights back, and yet both countries are in the exact same frequency. No change can happen from that place. No elevation of consciousness can happen from there. There's nothing can change when you're meeting it with the same energy with which it was created in the first place. So you have to elevate your vibration. You have to elevate your energy to kind of see from above and disengage from that. Otherwise, you're holding yourself there. And it's when you disengage and actually begin to see how everything has been laid out perfectly for you to become aware of it. You needed all those circumstances so that you could begin to see and awaken from them. They serve the purpose of catalyzing your awakening. They serve a purpose, and they serve a purpose for those who you view as still sleeping as well. The way that you can most serve all of those people is actually to embody the state of loving, non-judgmental awareness. Because when you start to set that kind of example, when you actually elevate to then become a co-creator with source consciousness, your entire reality begins to shift and change because you're creating it from that higher state. And it is you being the example of that others will notice, and that what others will magnetize to and like look at you and be like, what's that? I want that. They're not suffering. They seem to move through life with a sense of ease and grace. Even though these circumstances happen, somehow everything just always works out well for them. Look at all the amazing creations that they're birthing and how everything is being magnetized to them so that they can begin to create that in their reality. There is a magnetism to that is far more powerful than your judgmental wanting them to change from that lower level of vibration. So when you rise up, what happens is you lift the collective field. That is seen, that is felt, that is witnessed. And that has a much more far-reaching impact than you trying to convince somebody of your truth. Live it. Co-create with this new source consciousness that is moving through you. Begin to create the new. Begin to move in the direction that brings you joy, where your gifts and your genius are coming online and your imagination, your creativity is opening up, and you start doing things in a different way. Start walking the walk. The talk. The talking of the talk is not what anybody needs. Begin living it. Begin embodying it. That holds a much vaster energy that is recognized on a cellular level, and it serves the collective in such a massive way. It's like a tidal wave that through your experience, that you are actually uplifting people because you're choosing to create. It's a massively easier, more easeful, more joyful, more playful, more fun way of allowing yourself to be the lighthouse, not the lifeguard. The lifeguard is the one that is constantly diving in to save all the ones that are drowning. And what happens is they pull you under with them. It doesn't serve you and it doesn't serve them. But when you're the lighthouse, you stand there illuminated for all of the ships and all of the people drowning to see, so that they can then swim into shore. But you don't have to dive in and get them. Stay anchored and stabilizing in the light that you are embodying so that it can sustain and get stronger. Because the stronger you get, the more intentional and the more precise, and the more you're holding that energy of the new and the new visions that are moving through you, the more everything in reality steps up to meet you there. It's a far more powerful way to create. So, I hope this has helped. Don't be the puppet on either side being, directed by the puppeteer, but rather cut all of those cords and move forward on your own trajectory and trust that trajectory. It's that unique soul's gift that's going to radiate and make great change in the world, to settle in more and more to the vastness of what you are, to think bigger, to dream bigger, to envision bigger, and then to take baby steps in that direction. That's where you want to point your energy. That will have massive effect, not only for your personal life, but for service to all. And it's a much more joyful, orgasmic, ecstatic way to create. So don't get locked into the shame and the blame and the frustration of all of these things that you've recognized for not for too long. I think it's a necessary moment of our awakening to begin to recognize and to begin to want to know more. And I think that's beautiful, but don't get stuck there. Keep going. Keep going past that. Keep going deeper inside yourself. Keep that inner exploration to move through duality, because that's where you're being propelled beyond that, so that you can begin to move towards unity that has a magnificent effect. So I hope this has helped. Thank you for staying for this video. Much love and blessings till next time.